Hey everybody, I'm Chris Lyon with the Prizecast, and I have another filmmaker interview with you today, the director of Strangers in Common, Carlos Imanez. Thank you so much for being here today.
Nice to be here, Chris.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk a little bit about your film, Strangers in Common. We're going to talk about the process of making it and how you got involved with Film Prize. But first, why don't we start with you? Tell us about yourself and how you got into filmmaking.
Okay, well, I was born in Venezuela. There, I guess, with not much to do, my dad had a bunch of VHS tapes. He had like Jurassic Park, and I would watch Jurassic Park every day for the first like 6, 7 years of my life. And then we moved to Miami, Florida, and all we would do is go to the theater, the usual story. Spend all day at the theater, and from then I just grew the decided to pursue filmmaking. I enlisted in the Marines in 2015 uh, as a video uh, as a videographer, combat videographer, and there's where I learned the filmmaking techniques of film. Um, Especially improv, like being able to move on the fly because you're following around a bunch of people training and there's nothing scripted, which is great as a cameraman, which I'm a cameraman first, um, where you're able to make decisions on the fly as you go through it. Um, After that, I got out of the Marines in 2020, December. And for the last 2 years, I've just been doing this.
Well, that's fantastic, and I can tell you, as a fellow Jurassic Park fan, anybody who knows me knows that I'm
Yeah.
super excited that that's your origin story in cinema. And thank you for your service. I really appreciate that you've
Sure.
given time to our country and put yourself on the line for that.
Thank
Um,
you.
but I want to talk too a little bit about now that you've sort of made this journey through becoming a filmmaker. How did the idea of Strangers in Common come into being, and who are the people around you that were helping you make it happen?
Okay, so when we decided to do Prize Fest, we had a movie idea in mind. It was called Southern Sky, and it was supposed to be this tense thriller. We were gonna drive to Shreveport, we're in New Orleans. We were gonna cast a bunch of people. It was gonna be set in this little cafe thing and the Rhino Cafe. Shout out to them. It was gonna be set there, and super different story than what we ended up doing. But what happened was we couldn't get everybody casted in time. Unfortunately, we had the funding, but we couldn't find a hard of hearing slash deaf actor, which was very important to us. And we didn't want to cast anybody to pretend to be hard of hearing or deaf. And with time running out, we just decided to, at the very last week, right before we were going to drive to Shreveport, which is when the only time all of our schedules lined up, we decided to completely change the movie. So I had spent that weekend watching a few movies, and I saw In the Mood for Love. And so this movie, Strangers in Common, came from that idea of two people who have been cheated on. They find each other, they find comfort in each other, and they role play as each other's spouses. So first and foremost, it's a homage to In the Mood for Love. Yeah, we spent, I think, 5 days working on the story before we just went and filmed it. And then Strangers in Common was born.
That's amazing. How did you kind of form this group of people around you? Had you known them already? You worked on other projects together? What was your relationship with them?
Okay, so Matt and Steven and I have a production company, Ghostwrite Media. We met over the last year working on films. And Shilava, we met her at Filmapalooza. I think it was some February or March of this year. Filmapalooza is for the 48-hour competition. The winners of each city go there. Anyways, we met her there. She's from Austin, so she drove all the way from Austin to Shreveport. I drove from New Orleans. They drove. Matt and Steven are in Atlanta. They drove from Atlanta, and yeah, I guess that's how we met. We met working on films and networking.
That's pretty amazing. So we know that this production came together quickly. People coming from all over the country sort of descending on Shreveport. What was it like trying to, come up with the production plan with everybody sort of spread so far apart and having to go to some place that you're not from? You know, how did you stumble upon Rhino as a location? What other locations did you find, and what was the process of getting all that together?
Okay, so we found Rhino online. Like I said, it was originally intended for that other movie, Southern Sky, and it just looked right, looked perfect, and we had already had, I think, like 2 months of communication with the owner. Um, so we had already decided we're gonna book this place, and even though the story changed, we still figured a way to incorporate that into it. Um, Everybody else, as far as like a collaboration and communication. Okay, so we did a bunch of Zoom calls for the over that month that, when it looked like we weren't going to be able to pull off that movie. It was just constant communication. We were, I think, on Zoom calls pretty much every day before we took off to Shreveport, to make sure that we were all on the same page and talk about what we agree upon, what we don't agree upon, and more importantly, how each of us would serve the function of, like, we had to find extras. So she did her best to find extras for us that lived in Shreveport and could be there on that night. Steven was in charge of the food. He was making all the calls, getting the Airbnb. He was the producer guy, making sure that we were all accommodated. And then Matt and I were busting our butts to make sure that this story was the best that we could make it in the short time we had.
Yeah, I mean, so you guys filmed the other location, I guess, being the house was the Airbnb that you guys stayed at. Was that how that worked?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, what a really neat story of everybody sort of coming from across the country to here to make something and then going back home again. And when you did sort of, finish up that whole process of filming and getting all that done, and you took it back home, what was the post-production process like? How much time did you have to kind of get things in place before the deadline? Um, yeah, let's start with that.
Let's see. So I think we filmed that in the last weekend of June. So I think that was what, 2 weeks of editing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. 2 weeks of editing. I did um most of the editing with Matt and Steven serving as like the primary, like note givers. Editing is one of the things that I love to do the most. But you get lost in the weeds, so I try to separate myself. I directed and edited this, so I relied on them heavily for what this feels like, what it looks like, what works, what doesn't work. Um, so yeah, that was for the first round, right?
Mm.
And then for the second submission, after we found out we were in the top 20, or do you want me to pause on that, or
Yeah,
or
no, go for it.
okay? After we found out we were in the top 20, I was actually in Miami filming some music videos. So Shilava took it to her friend Tori, and Tori made an edit that was very different from the original one we submitted. And what was great about that was, it's interesting to see how somebody takes what you have, right? They got no attachment to it. All they're seeing is what is in front of them. And you see what they take off and what they put in and what they make longer, what they make shorter. And it really helps you, like I said, get out of the weeds, take a step back, and we're like, okay, now new life has been breathed into this. So we took a lot of what Tori did. So shout out to Tori. And we helped craft the final version. That must have been like 8 drafts after the one we originally submitted, including with Tori's edits. So yeah, post production was another big collaborative process. Everybody throwing ideas in there. Another big thing was, while I was gone in Miami, I had asked the team to go to their friends. Oh, actually, this was something that you and Greg suggested. Uh, Send this to people that you trust, that have no, they're not going to tell you the movie's nice and good because they love you, but they're just going to tell you the honest truth. So we did, and we compiled the list of things that worked and didn't work. And yeah, and then we submitted.
That's pretty amazing. And since you did talk about kind of the submission before and submission after, what was it like finding out that you were in the top 20? Were you watching live online, and what did that feel like?
Heck yeah, we were watching live online. As soon as we heard it, I called the whole group on the Facebook group chat, and we started screaming and celebrating and hugging virtually. Yeah, it was very nice. It was very nice.
That's awesome. So, have you ever been to the film prize before? Have you ever attended or any of that? Awesome. Well,
No.
you're in for a real treat. He was shaking his head for those of you who may have not seen. But the experience is certainly going to be interesting and unique for you as a first timer. What are you sort of hoping for and expecting out of Prize Fest? And what do you hope the audiences take from your film as they're watching it on the big screen?
Okay, so what I'm expecting the most out of Prize Fest, honestly, is to meet all the other great filmmakers. Like seeing the posters and the work they're doing, the marketing work they're doing on Facebook is humbling. I'm looking at all the stuff they did, and I'm like, I can't wait to just pick their brains and try to share Facebooks and Instagrams and phone numbers or whatever. Really connect with them. I think like with you guys as well, and all the folks you say that are going to be there. Journalists and film critics and whatnot. So I'm really really excited just to meet people. What do I hope the people take from my film? Hmm. I guess if I were to impart anything, I hope the movie imparts anything. It would probably be to not be judgmental. I think, like I said, this movie is about cheating and getting cheated on. We all have friends who have been cheated, and the first thing to do is to say, leave them, or we see somebody who's making a relationship decision because they feel empty inside for whatever reason. But whether they got cheated on or not, sometimes we'll encourage them to do one thing or the other. But I think the best way to take this in is to just watch Liam and Iris with an open mind, compassion, understanding. Whatever their decisions are, that's their decisions. That's their decisions to live and die by. And if they stand by it, I think I would like to see a lot of more people kind of have that approach for people in their lives. Without judgment, you respect the decision you make. You could say, hey, maybe you should do this instead of that, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, it's all about, I understand why you're doing what you're doing, and I wish you nothing but the best. And whatever lessons you may learn along the way, I'll be there to support you.
That's a great message, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how the audiences react to it and what they come to you, because they will find you in the street and tell you their opinion for sure. So I'm really
Okay.
interested for you to have that experience. Um, I guess the last thing here is, at the end of the day, there are these 20 films, but on that awards brunch day on Sunday, the 23rd, a name is going to be read aloud. And let's say that the audience and the judges connected so much with your film that that's the name that's written on the check, Strangers in Common. What is it that is going through your mind at that point, and what do you do with the winnings?
Oh, wow. Hold on, let me think about that. Okay, so if our name were to be called, number one, that would be amazing. I would probably try to share as much love as possible to the other films out there. Maybe one or two I feel like deserved it a little more than us, and I'll be like, I wish I could split this with you guys. What we would do with the money is split it amongst the filmmakers, and then probably like 50% of that would go to the filmmakers, and the other 50 would probably go to funding another production. We have several movie ideas in mind that we want to pursue. So yeah, I could see that other 25,000 going to a movie or feature or something. But yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I am really excited for you to get to experience that, and hopefully your name is the one that is called, right? And so we'll see what
Fingers
happens.
crossed.
There's
Fingers
a
crossed.
lot of time and a lot of things can happen between now and the 23rd. But before we leave, I do want to kind of leave us with the thing that we do at the end of all of our prize gatherings, which is to say the big Viva la Film Prize.
Viva la Film Prize!
Fantastic. That's the one. All right. Thank you so much. And all of you who are out there, you can catch the film playing at Prize Fest from October the 20th through the 23rd. or 22nd, and then the award ceremony on the 23rd. Carlos Jimenez, thank you so much for being with us today, and we look best of luck at Prize Fest.
Thanks, Chris. Have a beautiful day.
You too. Bye bye.